The smoking gun that I was looking for, who reported Birmingham when Birmingham was at Our Lady of Fatima in Sudbury, it was there in the files. They told the parents in Sudbury they were going to hospitalize him in Salem. He was going to get treatment there and might actually become like the chaplain of the Salem hospital. So they sent him to Salem and they put him in charge of the altar boys. When he was in Brighton, he was the chaplain to the juvenile court. In Gloucester, he was made pastor, the ultimate authority. It made it very clear that the Archdiocese knew about him as early as 1964 and all the way through his career. The Boston Globe back in, I guess, 92 or 93 had some information about Birmingham, and they tried to call Sister Grace Kenny. She called the Archdiocese and said, "What should I do?" In the files, Father John McCormick basically says, tell her not to say anything. Tell her not to go looking into the records. Tell her not to talk to the Globe.
You know, in my days, when a priest told you that tomorrow you're going to go to hell, you figure you accepted it, you know. And it's a different item now for me that's about priests. They're nothing but a bunch of hypocrites.
When Birmingham was molesting me, there was that sense I was going through some strange indoctrination, some ritual. Along with trying to get some sexual gratification, he was trying to change my life. He was trying to take me out of the realm of young boys who were going to have a normal sexual life. Because he had given that up, he was going to say, okay, Paul, you don't get it either. I'm going to put this darkness in your life. I just think there's this level of sexual jealousy in the priesthood. That's part of why the other priests didn't stop it, because they could have stopped it. They had to know what was going on. These guys all went to school together. I'm sure that they saw through practice. If you step out of line sexually, you will get a slap on the wrist and be sent to another parish.
In 2002, in the wake of parishioner protest over his handling of abusive priests, Boston's Cardinal Lahr resigns.
Through the course of the year 2002, I made some contact with some of the people who had formed the Survivors of Joe Birmingham.
Start a row over there, too.
In January 2003, they had organized a meeting in Salem where Bishop McCormick was going to come, talk to the group, and answer their questions.
Echo, 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 echo.
At this point in my life, if there's one thing that's really stuck with me and made me feel real bitter, it was the way that McCormick treated my case, and now we're looking at these files, how he treated lots of them.
Might hang out over here tonight. I hope I can keep my voice together.
So it's been a process getting to this point to get him down here?
A lot of work. Most of these guys from this group we're in, they're going public and now getting therapy and meeting all these other guys and doing this while you supposedly work for a living, you know? It's amazing.
These guys had this thing really well organized. There were well over 100 people who showed up. Family, old friends. Mom and Dad were there, and Hartley, my ex-wife, showed up. And then the so-called Bishop John McCormick showed up and said how he never thought that his return to Salem would be under these circumstances. There must have been about 7 or 8 people who got up and just told their stories. It was incredibly moving. Jamie Hogan said, I remember you coming over to our house for dinner all the time when I was a kid. What would you say to my father if my father was here alive? How would you explain that you didn't do anything about this? There was a woman who got up, the sister of a man in Lowell who had been abused by Birmingham and who had committed suicide. I read this statement that I wrote. I've flown across the country from Sacramento, California, the town where I now live, to Salem, the town where I was born and grew up, to ask John McCormick some questions. I hope you'll understand why I do not address John as father. My father is here in the audience, and John McCormick does not deserve to share that title with him.
How'd that make you feel?
I was pretty proud. You're not fit to be called a father. He says, there is my father and mother there. Remember that? Yeah.
How can you say that you didn't know about this when 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, here's the evidence? Why are you lying? I faced him. He was 2 feet away from me. He wouldn't even look at me. At the end of the meeting, he got up and made some lame statement about, well, I would like to answer your questions, but there are so many of them that there's not enough time tonight. You can individually come and talk to me if you want.
I can't talk, because that's always,
Sure, after
they
hearing
didn't
that
make
speech.
us speak, nothing. But he still is there.
Yep.
Hi. Thank you, gentlemen. Hi. How are you?
We all felt good that we were able to get up and say what we needed to say, and disappointed in his reaction.
I learned what their lives are like because of what has happened to them.
So John was only now considering how the other half lived. As for his pals, the class of 1960, out of 45 seminarians, a dozen abusers and enablers. Probably the most familiar among them was Paul Shanley, a serial abuser, who addressed the initial gathering of NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association. McCormick covered for Shanley, and Birmingham, and other alumni and colleagues. In 1985, John McCormick, Joe Birmingham, and 3 other priests from their class took a trip to Europe together in celebration of their 25th anniversary in the priesthood. This was some 10 years before he told my brother he knew nothing about Birmingham between the time he left Salem and the time he died, and that they certainly weren't close. 2 years after this European vacation, a parent of an altar boy from St. Anne's in Gloucester, who had heard rumors of Birmingham's previous misconduct, contacted McCormick about his concerns. McCormick told the parent that he spoke to Birmingham and that, quote, he has assured me there is no factual basis to your concern. From my knowledge of Father Birmingham and my relationship with him, I feel he would tell me the truth, and I believe he is speaking the truth in this matter.
My work with John McCormick is over. He has no moral authority left. He's so clearly discredited by just the evidence that's sitting in his file.
Paul was done with McCormick, but I had to give him another chance. I was on the road when we finally connected. So the reason I called you, this whole process for my brother has sort of become a process for me too, and Paul went and got therapy for this, and my therapy is that I've been working my way through it by making a film about it. And it's a film about a family and how we're all trying to find our way through whatever this religion was to all of us. I don't know if you would be interested in being part of it, because you are part of it. You're a big part of it, and a lot of people talk about you, and frankly, it's not very complimentary. I'm just offering you the opportunity because I don't want to go through this process and make a film, and then at the end, someone say, well, you know, it seems so one-sided. Why don't we hear anything from John McCormick when he seems to be talked about a lot? Why wouldn't you? Why won't you be believed? I don't understand that. I am giving you this opportunity and you're denying it.
That's right.
I mean, I think what my brother's doing by doing this film is a lot harder than what you'd have to go through. I want you to know that I did ask you to do this, and that when this thing comes out and there's negative things about John McCormick in it, that you understand why they are not counted.
Well, I'd be pleased to talk to anybody who wants to talk to me about this, though.
Okay, so I'll invite anybody in the audience to, or,
If
you know.
wants to come to me and talk to me, I'm pleased to see them. I do it.
Okay,
Okay?
all right,
Okay, Joe.
all right,
God bless you, Joe.
okay.
Yeah.